Hey everybody, I apologize for the fact that I haven't really been doing the announcement videos lately. Honestly, part of that has been a time issue. Anybody familiar with the streams knows that I've been having some very serious fatigue attacks lately. So, I wake up late, do a few things to wake up, and then get to work. That's pretty much normal. But I do apologize for that, for not taking the time to actually do these. We are streaming today Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels. We're done with the Mario 3D block, and we're working our way through the Mario 2D blocks. That's where we're at currently. But I wanted to kind of go ahead and do a bit of a wrap-up of StarCraft 2. It's really, really good. That's your super summary, right? Because you got the streams for the people who have all the time in the world. Then you got the VODs for the people who don't have the time for that. Ostensibly, then you have the highlights, although those are intermittent because I can't afford to pay an editing team. And then below the highlights, you have these. And this is about as summarized as we get, right? But it has been suggested I keep doing the 4 thumbs up. So, story core, tentative thumbs up. Story presentation, big thumbs up. Gameplay core, thumbs up. Gameplay presentation, thumbs up. For those of you who don't know this, StarCraft 2 is, as of this moment in time, the best reviewed game I've ever reviewed. Puts it way, 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 way at the top. That makes sense, given all the factors involved. It is functionally a game with 2 massive expansions and multiple years of support and additional work that was put into it. That makes sense, right? In like an ideal world, that should be the best reviewed game I've ever covered, right? For pretty much the same reason that MMOs are usually considered on a different scale. When you continue developing a game for years and years and years, yeah. What surprised me, though, is that when I finally did the final golden number calculation, it turned out to be a really terribly reviewing game. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Hang on a minute. And so that was actually a few weeks ago at this point, and me and several other people, including Savicom, have spent some time going over the math that goes into the formulas at the back end of the golden number. And we actually found several errors. Not the first time these have cropped up, but for the most part, the system had been pretty accurate, and indeed, even with the adjustments, the system has barely changed. That is to say, the system hasn't changed at all, just the formulas have changed. So, the order of games has barely changed, is what I'm trying to say. But now the system can accommodate better for negative numbers. No more no more logarithmic thing going on. And the system can better accommodate for statistical outliers, which is what StarCraft 2 really, really was. The system that we built for the reviews was designed around the concept of like a hypothetical scenario in which a game could do everything right. The example I like to use is Mega Man, right? You've got a stage, you've got enemies in the stage, you've got layout, you've got terrain and jumping, you've got the boss at the end, you've got the power-ups you get, you've got where the itemization is, where the pickups and all that stuff are throughout the stage. All of those things can pop. Every one of those things hypothetically can be a positive. In fact, every one of those things could hypothetically be 3 positives. Now, obviously, that's not a game we've covered, but that's the hypothetical cap, and that's the idea. StarCraft 2 is probably as close as we've ever gotten to that, because the sheer quality of every individual mission from so many different angles is honestly a little bit bonkers. And that's across, 3 full campaigns. So, yeah, no, it makes perfect sense that StarCraft 2 would score this well. Now, how many of you in chat are sick of your head thinking, oh, Laura, you're dumb and you're stupid? I understand that. In fact, even a friend of mine, whose opinion I care about a great deal, has given the advice to go ahead and play StarCraft 2, just don't play the expansions. Now, naturally, he was giving that advice from a story perspective, and I'm sure that if you're hearing this right now, you're probably thinking of that concept, right? You're thinking of the idea of, sure, the game's fine if you only play, whoops. If you only play the wrong thing. There we go. If you only ever play Wings of Liberty, because, I mean, just that plot is so stupid, right? I don't know how else to respond to that, because, yeah, there's so many dumb moments. In fact, what's really funny to me, StarCraft 2 scored extremely high, on the story axis, too. because good characters, good voice acting, good presentation, the mission design, the little bits of visual storytelling as you're going through the mission. Remember the Core Hall Media Blitz? Remember the fact that I need to sneeze? Oh my god, come on, come on. All of that stuff is great storytelling. The plot's pretty weak, and I was actually accused of coming down on StarCraft 2 too hard during the run, because it has some of the dumbest goddamn scenes, right? Like, we're done has become a meme because of StarCraft 2, because of how freaking stupid that scene is. So, I get where you're coming from. And I'm not going to try to defend my side of all this. I'm just pointing out that the way I value games, or movies, or shows, is net. Net. What's the net score there at the end of the day? And while there are a lot of story negatives to StarCraft 2, for me personally, there are more story positives which help buoy it up, and that, I think that's what I wasn't expecting walking into it. I didn't expect it to be such a net positive on both axes. I mean, everybody knew it was going to crush on the gameplay axis, right? We all knew that. We all knew that walking in. And you're probably thinking, Lord, you're not even talking about it. No, because I can't summarize it, really. The quality of life in controlling, in being able to maneuver your units in order to give hotkey commands, in order to tab through your units, the ability to quickly bounce around the map, the ability to select multiple buildings at the same time and tab quick queue for them, the actual specific placement of the hotkeys on your map, the ability to rebind your hotkeys in order to be something more accessible to you, the level of feedback the game gives, both audio and visual, the pathfinding, which is not just better in terms of general pathfinding, but has been improved in terms of collision pathfinding. They changed the very way collision works between certain types of units. There's a nudge mechanic. They added a freaking nudge mechanic. The fact that the AI is actually extremely well designed to the point where it will like know exactly how to limit itself depending on which type of difficulty it's placed to. It has multiple different modes that it can be adjusted to. The fact that the game has a built-in tournament, automated tournament system, the fact that it has the arcade, the fact that it gives you the map editor, which is a bonkers map editor that people can do some extraordinarily creative stuff. The extensive custom campaigns that people have done for this game as a result of those tools being put into their hands. Co-op mode, which by itself got 80 pluses to gameplay. 80! I think it was like 86 or something like that. But the point is, because, and I said this before we started, I said co-op mode could be considered its own separate game, and I was freaking right. Because it is so extensive, and the map design, and the mutators, and the custom mutators, and the difficulty levels, which again go into the proper difficulty scaling, the fact that the maps are so custom crafted around the concept of co-oping, the co-op commanders themselves being such wonderful asymmetric gameplay that each of them plays, well, after a certain point. Because we got like the basics, then we got the slight variances, but then we got these guys, and these guys are all like very, very, very different from each other, and that's so awesome, and they're so well designed with such unique gimmicks or mechanics or whatever. Before you ask, my personal favorite is Tychus, and Stukov, and Zeratul, and Dahaka. Those are my favorites. Those are the ones I've been leveling for a long time. And that's the other thing. You actually have builds. You can actually customize how you actually play them with once you build and once you level them and once you get the prestige points. And you can re-roll them in order to give yourself a massive detriment, but also massive benefit to change how you play the side entirely. All that's just in co-op. The only negative I could come up with for co-op, it's not a negative, but the only bad thing I can think of for co-op is the fact that there's no probability to have an AI bot with you instead of another player, which means you can either pug, which I never recommend, or you have to wait for one of your friends to be on to play it with, which kind of sucks. And it's going to suck even more 20 years from now when, you know, that doesn't exist. And all of this is before we even touch the campaigns. All of this is just the vehicle of the game. This is the best playing RTS I have ever played in my life. Not. Let's ignore the level design for a moment, which is amazing. Let's ignore the campaign or the progression or the storytelling or the visuals or the characters, any of that. Ignore all of that. Just the actual game itself, the framework, the mechanisms, the interface, the HUD, and the controls is the best playing RTS I have ever played in my life. And I've played a lot of them. I've been playing them since Warcraft 1 and frickin' Dune. That's kind of a lie. I played Command & Conquer before I played Dune. Then I went back to Dune, and I said, holy crap, this is so much worse. But the point is, I have played Dune. But that's the big one for me, personally. I know everyone values something different when it comes to RTS design. And level design, visual storytelling, you know, a good, interesting campaign, and... So I guess that's actually two things. And making the game actually fun to play. I have put up with so many RTSs in the years, including Starcraft 1, which are frustrating and irritating to play because I was willing to do it for the other steps, for the other parts of the puzzle. I cannot tell you how much I never got tired of playing Starcraft 2. This is like a 60-hour game. Never once. We played it for like a week and a half. Never once was sick of it. Never once lost quality, at least on the gameplay axis. And that is extraordinarily rare for me. Something that I occasionally get accused of is that I don't like longer games, which is inaccurate. What I don't like is games that wear out their welcome. Every game will get boring at some point or another. Every game will eventually get old. And where exactly that point is varies from person to person. But if there is a game that manages to retain its level of quality across its runtime, regardless of what that runtime is, that's almost always a plus for me. In fact, the new formulas kind of take that into account. So yeah, StarCraft 2 is a really, really, really awesome game. If you have not played it, I cannot recommend it enough. I'm gonna go play some Mario Brothers. I'll see you guys.